Morning everyone, All Ohio Rail fan here. Today's date is January 7th, 2026. Time check is 8:13 a.m. And as you can see, I am on the highway and I'm making my way up to Marion to spend the day and check out some trains as it's abnormally warm this time of year. Temperature is going to be about 47 degrees for the high, and that's pretty good for this time of year. So I'll go ahead and check back with you guys once I get to Marion. I have about, let's say, 10 or 15 minutes left to get there. So see you then. Alright everyone, I have arrived and nothing is really happening right now except for this SD40-2 sitting on the transfer track. It's online and running, but it doesn't look like anybody's inside the cab, so not much is really going on right now, and I'll cut back to you guys when the action starts. Stay tuned. Sandusky District would kick off today when not one, but two trains showed up at the same time. A symbolist mystery northbound empty grain train and southbound intermodal train 272 on its daily journey between Sandusky, Ohio and Norfolk, Virginia. As you're seeing here, the empty grain train would get here first, resulting in 272 getting blocked. CSX was slow to get in on the action, and when they did, westbound train M331 would cross the diamonds on the Mount Victory subdivision on its daily journey between Cumberland, Maryland and Avon, Indiana with its mixed freight commerce and low priority double stacks. Norfolk Southern proved to be the dominant force between the two companies when a northbound loaded coke train showed up on the Sandusky district. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the symbol for this train either. A neat surprise was in store for the rail fans today when another southbound intermodal train appeared on Norfolk Southern Sandusky District, specifically NS-270, on its daily journey between Chicago, Illinois and Columbus, Ohio, with ES-44AC 8101 in the lead, the railroad's Central of Georgia Heritage Unit. Getting an unintentional extreme close-up of this one, another southbound was next in line on the Sandusky District, that being a mixed freight train which I didn't get the symbol of, but I have reason to believe it's either 18W or 118. over to the C&O and Mount Victory subdivision diamonds, we would see an eastbound local on the Mount Victory subdivision as it departs the yard here in Marion to work industries east of town. The Mount Victory subdivision would come alive again around noontime when another westbound approached, that being CSX M363 on its daily journey between Selkirk, New York and Avon, Indiana with its mixed freight commerce and a few jumbo 86-foot boxcars tucked in right behind the lead motor. Their dominance once more, Norfolk Southern Train 117 was next in line, heading northbound up the Sandusky District on its daily in-state journey between Columbus, Ohio and Bellevue, Ohio with its mixed freight commerce. As you're about to see, a very unwelcome surprise was in store for the rail fans as 117 was making its way northbound up the Sandusky District. Southbound intermodal train 28N would make its way through on the Sandusky District at the same time behind the 117. One of the two Landmark Series SD70 Aces would be leading 28N today, specifically 1231, which is painted to commemorate the town of Atlanta, Georgia. 117's bottom end would clear the crossing, but not quick enough, which resulted in the subpar going away shot of 28N. After that interesting turn of events with the Conrail caboose leading, the CSX local from earlier would back across the Mount Victory subdivision heading for the yard to finish up their shift. CSX local revving up in Notch 8 in the background, a Norfolk Southern local would cross the Mount Victory subdivision on the Sandusky district. Unlike the CSX local, I was able to determine the symbol for the NS local, which was L38, that runs on a weekly round trip between Marion, Ohio and Waldo, Ohio to serve customers in that small town. The highest priority train on the Mount Victory subdivision would soon come east. That being CSX Intermodal Train I-008, which runs on a daily basis between Rose Lake, Illinois and Syracuse, New York, with high priority containers and trailers. With the high-priority I-008 off into the distance, Norfolk Southern local freight L38 would return, but this time heading northbound after finishing their work in Waldo, Ohio, and heading back to the yard in Marion. Another verse, same as the first, another northbound would be in store on the Sandusky District a little while later, that being NS-11E on its daily journey between Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Roanoke, Indiana, with its mixed freight and automotive commerce. Columbus subdivision would be quiet all day up to this point until southbound empty coal train E601 slammed the diamonds on its as-needed journey between Gibson, Indiana and Russell, Kentucky for another load of coal. After moving to the empty lot next to the crossing on the Columbus subdivision, another unit train was on the heels of the E601 from earlier, that being ethanol train B633, formerly B651, on its as-needed journey off of the CPKC Railway in Bensenville, Illinois, for Charlotte, North Carolina, with a pair of Canadian Pacific AC 4400s doing the honors today, the leader of which being equipped with a really nice Nathan P3 air horn. One more train would pass the old station here in Marion before I had to leave for the day, that being eastbound M332 on CSX's Mount Victory subdivision on its daily journey between Avon, Indiana and Cumberland, Maryland with its mixed freight commerce and low priority intermodal shippers, just like the M331 from earlier. With M332 disappearing off into the distance eastward, I would then have to get back onto the road for the trip back to Columbus, which is where we now conclude today's video. Today's action was pretty spaced out, but at the end of it, I was left with a pretty decent day, with a few welcome and unwelcome surprises too. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out some other ones of mine. Leave a like or a comment down below to share your thoughts. Subscribe if you're new, and tap the notifications bell if you want to be notified when a new video gets posted here on the channel, just like this. Until next time, this is All Ohio Rail Fan, signing off.